Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our podcast. This is You're Not Ready for This. Your host speaking here, Alan, with my friend Kevin. Kevin, how you doing?
Hey, Alan, I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic, and it's funny how things go. We've been trying to get this started for a while now, haven't we?
It's crazy, I mean, this is our going to be our first recording. I know we've done quite a bit of test recordings and played with a bunch of different ideas and whatnot. But yeah, it's pretty cool to finally get it kickstarted and getting it off and going. Hopefully, people enjoy listening.
Yeah, and so you know what you're tuning in. Well, we're basically two individuals with a background in technology, and we known each other for a few years now, and wanted to, hey, let's hit record and see what comes out of the conversation that we have, and maybe more people can join in and enjoy the conversation that we have as a whole. I guess, in a way, like every other podcast that goes about whether they're gonna start recording or no. I guess we decided to record, and here we are.
Yeah, it's it's pretty crazy because it wasn't like we sat down and started to think like, hey, let's figure out what we should do for a podcast, and I think we should record a podcast or whatever. Basically, we were just getting together playing video games every week, and before we would start playing video games, we would end up just chatting back and forth for like an hour before we even started playing, and then. I forget who ended up making the comment, but it was just like, hey, let's maybe we should record some of our conversations.
I'm pretty sure it was you that came up with the idea.
It might have been, but yeah, I don't know if it was. I think I said it in not a super serious fashion, but it was kind of like, hey, maybe we should do a podcast, and people might want to listen to what these two Nimrods are saying.
And I guess that would go into the name quite a bit if people haven't figured out. Like the name have gone through a few motions. I guess why would they even decided to call it "You're Not Ready for This"?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because what was it? We were thinking about, are you ready for this? We were thinking about a couple other things, and I'm not real good about coming up with names. I think you came up with the name originally, and we just kind of went with it because it sounded good. But hopefully, the premise that we tried to come up with as far as "You're Not Ready for This" was just so that we can maybe introduce. I can introduce you, or you can introduce me to some media or sports or whatever content that maybe we're not really into or have seen before, or even if there's some stuff that we have seen before, but just kind of get our takes on it, so something new, something refreshing, and hopefully we can introduce other people to a lot of the same things that maybe you or I enjoy.
And it's one of those things that nowadays people have access to so much information, but people really enjoy consuming that information through the perspective of others. We decided, like, at least I can speak for myself that I definitely consume a lot of content from creators, either YouTube, Twitch, you name it. It's the sort of a thing that you start to realize, like, well, yeah, everyone has an opinion on it. How would we go about going and tackling things that we might not be as familiar with, and how our interpretation could be? That could be a very fine line, whether we decide to tackle something very relaxed or go into something more serious. We'll try to do our due diligence, but again, maybe a bit of our backgrounds could give you an idea of where we're coming from. How about you tell people where you're coming from, Kevin?
Yeah, well, so I was born and raised in New Jersey. I now live out in Arizona. I've been out here for quite a few years now. So, East Coast guy, big into sports, big into music, movies, video games, and whatnot. So, my background obviously is in technology. Been working in IT ever since I can really remember. So, fresh out of college, I worked at a software store as a gig when I was before I went to college. So just doing a lot of work on computers there that people would bring in their stuff, and that's kind of where I learned all my stuff from my boss, who was the owner of the store there, was the one that kind of mentored me and taught me, how to do everything, and I kind of had a little bit of a knack for it, I guess, and I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's kind of funny because the reason I got interested in computers originally was trying to get a game to work on my 386 computer that I had, and come to realize now that I would never have gotten it to work because it was a piece of hardware that I needed to have it was a specific hardware video card that I needed to have in order to get this game to work that I didn't have, but of course then I didn't know, so I bought books on DOS and whatnot, and I was trying to do configuration changes and learning and reading and learning and trying different things, and that's kind of where I started to say to myself, hey, this is kind of fun, I enjoy this, even though I never did get it working. So that was pretty cool, and so that's where that's when I put on my big boy pants and decided that that's what I was going to be when I grew up, even though I wasn't 100% sure that was really what was going to be.
I mean, isn't it that everyone to some extent, like you... It's tough because some people know quite clearly out of the womb, oh, I want to be a doctor, or I want to do this. And some people just choose at some point on their young life, like, hey, we got to make a choice. What are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to work in the RRS. Oh, I'm going to be an accountant. Oh, I'm going to be a plumber. Because you were made to choose, but in a way you were able to, at that point, because of something that you were interacting with, make that decision.
Yeah, exactly, and it's tough unless you really have a specific passion for something. I toss and turn, like, should I be? I wanted to be a veterinarian when I was younger. Obviously, that never came to fruition because I love animals and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of, I don't want to necessarily say it fell in my lap, but that was kind of where I ended up, and I said, hey, I could actually continue doing this and make pretty decent money, and at the time it was very enjoyable to me. As obviously as the years go on, it's my attitude towards it might have changed a little bit. I don't think it's quite as fun as at least I don't think I have quite as much fun as I used to. Of course, my responsibilities are much greater than when I first started, but overall I don't think I can complain too much. Since I seem to do okay, but
I mean, it's one of those things that you have the right to complain, just that the environment either doesn't accommodate to your needs, and it's something that just comes with the times, especially nowadays that everyone's reconsidering or changing their careers. not talking for my not talking in first person here, but it's a really interesting time. Like, oh man, sure, I feel guilty because I have all this baggage of, I have to be responsible to bring in a certain amount of income to be able to live comfortably, or whatever your retirement plans are, or a whole slew of things externally that influence you, that at the end of the day, it makes you reconsider, like, is this really for me?
exactly, it's definitely difficult, and I think the tough part is once you get used to a certain way of living as far as financially, it makes it difficult to walk away from that, because it's hard to go back and kind of not necessarily start from scratch, but try to learn something new and try to get efficient. It takes a long time to build, up those talents and that knowledge base and whatnot. So, I mean, personally, I don't have I don't necessarily want to say willpower, but I don't have the mindset to be able to really do that, especially because I kind of enjoy, the way I live right now. And, not to say that, I'm some super rich dude or whatever, but no, far from true. But, there's definitely things that I'd like to do and I like to enjoy that, I don't necessarily want to be able to, or want to have to give that up in order to change to a different career at this point, even though changing to a different career is appealing. So it's kind of weighing your options. I know you've been dealing with a lot of that yourself.
Yeah, I guess I'll use that as a segue to talk how I ended up in in this position,
Yeah.
I guess.
Tell me a little bit about how you got started.
So first off, maybe hasn't been evident, but English is not my first language. Quite honestly, I'm from Puerto Rico, and even though I can speak both Spanish and English, I kind of with practice I've become a bit better and fluent with it. But I guess it's something that you get used to. I grew up there on Puerto Rico. I basically lived in the part of the island that was more on the rural side. So we were all in constant, had more of a upbringing with nature and animals. My parents kind of love to teach me about how to go about, like, hey, you got this sort of fruit or plant and you gotta treat it this way. And the young old me kind of disregarded that, and now me being older kind of regret that. Kind of on my upbringing, I was a kind of a person that I was willing to do what was necessary, sort of a mentality. So if I needed to get my hands dirty in something, I would do so. I started working in construction when I was 13 years old. That kind of was through the eyes of my father that to show me that if I wanted to, what was the concept of if you want a better way of living or a better way of life, like every other parent wants for their children, like go to college, study, because otherwise this is awaiting you. And I'm not taking away from the profession, on the contrary. I even think nowadays of how I used to work and that relationship in between doing something tangible and seeing the direct fruit or results of it, and how that kind of has taken a second point on when you're working with computers. That you could say that it's not the same feeling like you're working with zeros and ones or applications or software unless you're directly physically working with a server or a computer, a desktop, laptop, you name it. So in that sense, obviously I went to college. I starting to get my degree on accounting, kind of in a similar way to yours, to you to trying to figure out how to fix a game.
Sure.
I was trying to get a job while I was in college to kind of get by.
So your original
Was accounting.
was your original major or your original
Yep.
interest. Now, when you picked accounting, was that something you were just interested in, or
Because I was good with numbers.
okay, okay,
I used to do like mentorship and tutoring back when I was in high school for other students. It was kind of my highest score in the SAT and all the tests that I took at that point. It was such a huge mistake, like thinking that you're good in math, you're gonna go into accounting and be good. Accounting at that point is more so about laws and theorems and all the things that are not directly related with numbers. That was a rather one of those things that shocking, because man, I choose this as quote unquote my profession. What's going on here? And it just so happens that I took a part-time job, like study and job on the same university back in Puerto Rico. I'm really grateful to this person. Every time that I have the opportunity to talk to them, I remind them how grateful I was that they gave me the opportunity to learn more about myself in a way, because this part-time job was fixing computers and working, like moving computers, learning the basics. And from there, I kind of decided to do a double major in both accounting and business administration for computers. Lo and behold, many years later, I ended up dropping from accounting and that being my profession, graduating from business administration on computers, working on a call center, and little by little, kind of going on the ladder of you getting more experience and getting my certifications and basically becoming an engineer.
should have stuck with accounting.
Now after so many years, over a decade, I was 15 or so years with experience on computers. I'm at the time of this recording. I'm sort of going through a lot of people nowadays are going like reevaluating their professional careers. Even gone through a few programs or made some interviews to kind of make that assessment. And let me tell you, it's not something easy to do out of the get go, especially when all of your upbringing kind of was with the mentality this is gonna do until I'm 65. I'm gonna retire and be done with it, and how the times have been so dynamic, the accessibility to more information and content basically had made me realize, hey, maybe there's something else out there that I can throw myself into and maybe have a bit more of either control or satisfaction of what I'm doing. And don't get me wrong, we work together, especially how we actually got to know each other was through a engineering job. We've already been, 2-3 years or so or more that we actually got to know
Yeah,
each other.
yeah. I think it's yeah. It's I think it's over a little over 3 years,
3 or 4 years.
or just about 3 years now. Yeah, because my one of my cats, Anko, is she'll be 3 coming up. So
Yeah, so
yeah,
maybe give or take a few months, 3
exactly.
years.
Yeah, yeah,
So we actually got to know each other through this engineering job that we used to work on the same department and became fast friends basically.
yeah.
And again, like Kevin mentioned, we started playing on a weekly basis and kind of hanging out with each other. And after the whole pandemic that basically hit everyone, a few changes both in my life and in Kevin's life happened, and we ended up moving away. I was originally living in Arizona. I moved to South Carolina to be closer to Puerto Rico, be closer to home, to kind of go and visit and anything that was needed, because most of my family still and friends are back in the island. Yeah, I'm kind of in this sort of journey, I would call it, to see what we can do and figure out. And along those things, we started talking to each other, and here we are making a recording about how we go about tackling some of the things that we like and how we
That's
can
crazy.
kind of open our minds or maybe expose ourselves and the people that want to tune in and listen to us, how we go in
Yeah,
this very same journey and kind of learn. And let's be honest and put something out there. We might be two individuals with backgrounds in technology, and we might bring technology topics here and there. But to be, I guess, as friendly or audience friendly as possible, we might not be going as depth as maybe explaining some array or some exchange terminology or the sort of things that are more in depth within the profession. We might do so if we maybe get someone as a guest or so, but we'll try to keep it more lighthearted and be more of a
yeah.
variety
I
podcast.
I think so. I agree. I think that's a good way of describing it. And like you said, if there's a time and place that we need to go or want to go more in depth on some of the technology stuff, we definitely can. But I think just kind of keeping it light, kind of keeping it more fun. We deal with, or me now specifically, deal with technology day in and day out. So it's not something that I particularly enjoy talking about outside of work. So, but not to say that I couldn't talk about it either. So yeah, definitely.
So, what can you expect about a sort of a variety show? You would think, well, why don't you just choose a topic and be done with it? It's like we've been that the reason why we took so long to kind of start recording, in a way, was just trying just to figure that out. Like, hey Kevin, how about we make a just a movie review podcast or a music review?
And
Uh,
we could do that, but then it limits us to just movies. What
and
if we want to talk about other stuff?
we also thought like, hey, why if we just leave it open microphone and whatever comes to mind? And it's like, well, man, it's sometimes good to have a structure. Again, I don't know if you have any prior experience to this, like doing recordings or actually putting yourself out there that is not within your close circle of either family or friends. So for both Kevin and I, this is something pretty new, and
Yeah, definitely.
it's not the same you seeing someone else do it and they have all the, I guess, the hassle or have been hustling for the years and they got to the point that they're comfortable. This is basically how kind of starting off, and I guess we'll be going through the hustle and see how far we can get.
May as well, you know. I mean, we're just trying to have fun, and hopefully other people have fun listening. You know, because that's kind of where what we're about. So, no doubt.
Talk,
And no, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you know, I think, you know, why restrict ourselves to just talking about a specific topic when we can talk about, you know, multiple topics, or yeah, maybe not topics specifically, but content, you know, music, movies, you know, sports, animation, video games, etc. So, you know, hopefully people enjoy listening.
it's one of those things that when you sit down and think, wouldn't you just have too much of a wide audience, and obviously not you're not able to create like a base of people that are gonna consistently come and hey, they're
Yeah,
talking about something that we listen, like hey, we start talking about Akira right now, and some people are gonna already know what Akira is, and some people what jargon are they talking about.
sure.
And it's funny how just something like that, I'm just bringing it on the spot. Back when we, I guess, both Kevin and I were growing up, being a fan of anime, if you were looked in a very shun way, like almost, oh man, these nerds or geeks, whatsoever. It was very derogatory in a way. And nowadays, it's like, oh yeah, everyone knows about it, and everyone's cool if you know about it. And how time changes to some extent. Don't you agree?
It does. Yeah, it definitely time definitely changes. It is. Hey, you're 100% correct. It's you know, from an anime standpoint, it's definitely more mainstream now. You know, more people know of it, know about it, and don't, you know, quote unquote look down on people who watch it. But yeah, it was also a lot tougher to find when we were growing up.
Oh no, yeah,
Wasn't
yeah.
that was another tough part. I remember going down to the flea market and having to buy bootleg VHS tapes just to be able to check out some anime. So
Oh yeah, and or at least in my case, how I kind of got in touch with it was the Spanish dub for animes
right, yeah,
that they aired very early on Saturdays and Sundays, and then when it became more so of a thing on the local channels back in Puerto Rico, they started doing it during the week, and obviously I wanted to go and see like, obviously I'm not gonna say the Spanish term because not everyone may be listening knows Spanish, but Samurai X or Rurouni Kenshin, like they were airing that, and it's like, oh man, this thing is pretty cool, and it was just, for example, the intro. It was super cool back in the day. Like, oh, what is this? This music, and obviously seeing the animation, the plot, and everything. It was not the same as, for example, seeing the Thundercats or the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or something like that. This,
exactly.
even though it was animation, it was different.
It was different.
It
Yeah,
had a different energy or soul about it, and
it
I,
did. Yeah,
it's kind of how I got into it, and all the other series that came after. And yeah, like you just said, it was not easy, and I didn't have a computer until I was well into college.
okay.
That I actually went ahead with that side job that I started repairing computers. That I went ahead and bought a computer. And if you're asking, well, weren't you supposed to submit like projects or work for the classes? Yeah, I either needed to do it on the library, or I had no other choice than do it by hand. And for the life of me, I don't know if I can even write right now. Like I know how to do my signature, but
Yeah,
everything that I interact nowadays is through either a digital device, a computer. I barely write for myself. Like note taking, I do that on the computer. If I need to write something, I it's not that I cannot write cursive, but I think I even forgot because I
it's it's funny because when I grew up, I was taught cursive. So, you know, I learned how to write cursive, and I always wrote cursive. And like to your point now, when I write something, it's like a mash between printing and cursive, and sometimes I don't even know what the hell it says. So yeah, I get it. You know, it's crazy.
and it's interesting how that whole deal goes down. Like things that you were very proficient in and you just stopped doing them. Like I told you, I was very good at math, and right now it might sound like a joke. It's not like I cannot do a linear equation or something like that, but it's definitely hard. Like having to remember all the theorems. Like how do you, if you have like the sides A and B for a triangle, and if you got a 90 degrees triangle, how do you find C facing or
Right.
whatever? That sort of thing. That man, you don't use that every day of your life, but
No.
are things. But it's funny. Are things that can be useful when you're going about life. How can I put it? While we were working together in that previous job, there were a lot of things that I learned through college that I was applying, even though I found myself with, well, technology itself that was by its nature is constantly changing, being innovative about how they go about doing things in a more optimized or efficient way. The way of thinking that I learned in college is what I was trying to apply. Maybe not a linear equation or maybe a theorem, but the way to tackle a problem is what I think helped me to kind of be on par, on top, to be able to grasp all these concepts and be able to flow with it. It's sad nowadays when you hear people talking and what you want to be when you grow up or what's going to be your profession. Most everyone wants to be a content creator,
And here we are, folks.
and here we are doing content creation for the irony of it.
I know it's crazy. Yeah, it's definitely wild, and the whole content creator thing would have blown my mind when I was, back. Hey, when I was in school, back in high school, I don't know if we'll have people that listen in that can relate. I'm sure we will, but I think you could probably relate a little bit too, because even though I'm a little bit older, but we had classes where we had a graphing calculator. We needed to use a graphing calculator in this class, and they handed these. Oh, what were they?
I think I also have to do quite a few tests with a graphing calculator as well.
Yeah, I can't remember the brand.
With the TI 81 or 83,
Yes,
the Texas
yeah.
Instrument, dude. We
Yeah,
have the
Texas Instrument. There you go. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I mean, I remember the brand because, well, by my upbringing, we weren't like dipping in money. My father had to take a loan for me to be able to get one of those calculators. And,
Yeah,
if the sort of thing that, man, a loan for $150, yeah, $150 that we didn't have on the bank are readily available.
It's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Yeah, exactly. But it's crazy. And then you look at those. That's what we had, and now you look at today, and we have these devices in our pockets that are like astronomically more powerful than something like that. And you want to do graphing calculator? I'm sure there's a bazillion apps to download on their phone for graphing calculator. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised Texas Instruments has their official app. So it's nuts how quickly these things change, and how different the dynamic is between people growing up when we did and now. And then you can say the same for people who grew up, even before, before people look, were growing up in school and stuff before us would look like, oh wow, you actually had a device that was a graphing device.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
we had to use an abacus.
right. Exactly. So we can sit here and be like, wow, we were on the Stone Age, but it just goes so fast, and it's definitely cool. It's fun to watch.
By the nature of it, it not only applies to technology, it applies to everything, man. Like we were talking about anime, for example, previously. Oh, the style and everything was, and the direction was done one way, and look now the series are coming out. Or for example, music is one of those things I always very contentious, like, oh, the older music is always better.
Right.
By the nature of it, when I myself have dabbled a bit on music, I'm no musician. I do it more so as a hobby. Like I have an acoustic guitar, I have a keyboard, and I from time to time kind of try to figure out stuff on my own. I haven't taken like any classes or gone to a coach or anything. More so is talking with my friends or sharing that same passion for music in general. And when you start learning about music and you actually hear music, you're like, man, I heard this riff before, and it just so happens that it's gonna be super random. I remember there's or there was an Argentinian band called Soda Stereo. That's in Spanish. They have a riff for a song very particular, and then when I listen to a song from Pink, the artist, it's like, wait, these are two separate individuals and genres and even language barriers. I'm listening to them and I'm like, I'm picking up on things that are similar, not saying that one copied the other or there's some hidden meaning behind that, but it's
Sure.
just how you start paying more attention to that sort of thing when you get more involved. And I was going like back and listening to older music, and I even listened like to classic Spanish guitar like Paco de Lucia or Segovia, all these artists, and most likely might be jumping over the heads of a bunch of people.
Yeah, even me.
But to kind of not alienate a lot of individuals, what I was trying to get to the point is that I started to listen to more older music, and you kind of put in contrast like what was done back then with what they had available, and you listen to music now, and it's sometimes hard not being kind of a subjective about the topic of things back then were better or were doing in a certain manner.
Sure.
Now it's so easy because now, well, quote unquote, you got all this arrangement of pedals that you can connect your electric guitar and make effects that maybe back in the day maybe they had pedals but not the same technology of pedals, and they had to be more technical about how they were about doing the chords on the strip. And yeah, we might be having a few conversations regarding that as well.
I think so. I mean, I think we could probably have a total, or an entire conversation just about that kind of that sort of thing, and I think we're all guilty of it. I am definitely of saying that, all the stuff that I listened to when I was growing up was so much better than the stuff that these kids listen to today. Right? But
And they're gonna kill you, yeah, boomer.
yeah, exactly. Okay, boomer. But you know what? I can guarantee you that a lot of them will say the same thing when they get to be our age as well. It's just the nature of the way things go.
The nature of the beast, I guess, yeah.
It is. It really is. And I mean, I do think there's probably certain aspects that you can make a legitimate argument that yeah, okay, some of the stuff today is not as good as some of the stuff prior to, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the majority of that just comes from nostalgia. A lot of it's nostalgia.
The nostalgia glasses can be very, very strong, definitely.
Hmm.
I mean,
No doubt.
I'm the kind of individual, obviously giving a bit of more of my background to kind of people know where we're coming from when we talk about topics. I'm the sort of individual that I prefer maybe 8 times out of 10 to play an old game that I have already played than play a new one. One, nostalgia is definitely a factor. Two, kind of the comfort zone of what I'm at. But those 2 out of 10 times that I decided to play something new, I've been blown off about what can be achieved nowadays.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, it's definitely the nostalgia and what the things that you relate to all these experiences that you already had and how you cherish them. I know that you told me before you usually pick up a game, for example, and it's rare for you to pick it up, either because it's story wise or unless it's like a sport or a fighting game, it's difficult to kind of go back and pick it up and play it again from scratch.
Yeah, it depends. There's definitely certain ones, and there's some that I will and I do, but for the most part, that's correct.
And I can say definitely the games nowadays have not only graphics wise, technology wise, have become better. They have been able to explore just because of the technology, how they approach either horror or storytelling, slices of life,
Right.
on very either realistic manner or very, how can you say, esoteric even in a way. There's a few games that they are very loose with the art style and the way
Sure.
that they go about the presentation. Definitely, I should, when we talk about games, let's say that we start doing a few game reviews, or even if we decide to stream live at some point, some games, it's gonna be one of those things that for me, if I prefer to go back to something that I know, but I definitely blown away what can be achieved nowadays. And I'm not someone that is very huge on you're gonna sell me the best graphics to be able to go into a game. Like
Sure.
if the story is good, I don't so mind going to older, say PS1 or 16-bit sort of a graphics.
Yep. Yeah, and I definitely agree from that standpoint. I think I have more trouble when it comes to me being just so used to the modern control schemes and going back to some of the older control schemes that I find a little bit difficult. And then even going back to some of the stuff that I played when I was younger, that where the difficulty levels were so high. I don't enjoy them like I did then. But back then, that's kind of all I did. You know what I mean? And I guess now, for me, I try to look at it more of an escape. I don't want to get angry. I don't want to get frustrated at playing a game that I'm trying to enjoy when I have enough of that at work. You know what I mean? So but some people really enjoy that, and they really enjoy the challenge and whatnot. Not to say that I don't enjoy some of the challenges in games and some of the more difficult ones, but I don't necessarily feel the need to get punished sometimes. I don't want the game to feel like a chore. And sometimes a lot of those old games, and I still think that they have a special place in my heart, and they're still very nostalgic for me. But they're also there's a lot of punishing aspects to them, and so sometimes it's a little bit difficult for me to go back and play some of the some of the older games. And
I'm with you there.
yeah,
It wasn't until recently that I had the exact same mindset of you, and I guess we talk of recording how I kind of approach that mentality. But I guess it's been kind of a sort of an awakening, and maybe we can dedicate a recording just difficulty
yeah,
in games and how we kind of approach them. I definitely have changed my tune a bit on it. I definitely still don't enjoy something that is, say, multiplayer, and people obviously have invested way more time. If you're not from the first day, say, on a shooter or some sort of a multiplayer game, you're always gonna be behind. Not only on the
it's tough.
on the skill level, on whatever resources you're given in a game or so, it can be very detrimental for the
It's
experience.
tough. Yeah.
And
Eh,
I'm
I think we could dedicate an entire episode just on that.
Yeah, and and you know me, I'm not the sort of person that when a game comes out, I buy it on the first day. I usually wait a bit,
Right.
especially with the mentality that not only games come out, I don't know to say almost 10 out of 10, maybe 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, that they release a game and they need to release a patch maybe within a week or two because either
Sure.
the game is incomplete by development. I know for a fact that the developers are under a lot of crunch time and pressure to release this product by the expectative of whatever company they're working with. So it's not a fault of their own. It's just that it's been more common nowadays that when you get something on your hands, there's something always that needs to be fixed or incomplete.
Yeah.
And when you see one of these older games, it's like they only got one chance at it, and they have
Well,
to,
that's just it.
and
It has to be.
and they had to test it all the way. And
Yes.
they even a few bugs in older games that people use as exploits, say Mario 64, or
Yep.
people doing like speed runs, and you enter a particular glitch to be able to jump faster through a ladder, or be able to go through a wall, or you name it, you know.
Yep.
So there's those,
If
and there's things that are not operational when the game releases, or is not as meant to be. Say the famous case of Fallout 76 that had a whole fiasco going on, not only on the game design kind of thing, but also they had like a promotion. This is older news at this point, but kind of about to give the example. They had a promotion that when you bought the game, they gave you like a starter bundle that had like a few articles, and one of them was a bag. And the bag was promoted to be made of some material, and they used a way cheaper
I
one.
remember this. I remember this. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was it was like it was terrible. Didn't they actually have to send them out what they promised after the fact?
I believe so, but if the sort of thing that tarnishes the experience, or it's the thing that kind of out there, and everyone knows that story nowadays for the game, and also what do you actually do in the game. Well,
Right.
So
Well, yeah. Before the patches and online stuff, if they released a broken game, it was broken forever. It was permanently broken.
And don't get me wrong, there are a few cases out there that it's funny how they ended up being broken, but again, that might be a conversation out of itself.
Yeah, no doubt.
And kind of switching gears here, how was your upbringing with sports? You mentioned that when we were kind of what we might be talking here on the podcast.
Yeah, I did. I think I'm probably a little bit more into sports than you are, but I was very into sports growing up. So I played baseball since I was just probably like 4 or 5 years old, all the way through high school. Decided I wasn't going to play in college because I wanted to concentrate on my studies because I didn't feel like I had the ability to continue much past that. And actually, looking back on it now, I don't necessarily know if it was really my ability. I don't think that was the case. I think it was more the drive. I didn't have that drive to continue. I didn't have, I guess for better or worse, depending on which way you want to look at it, I never was one to aspire to be a major league baseball player. And I know a lot of people do, and a lot of people don't make it. But I also know that more or less all the ones that do make it did aspire as they were, younger. They wanted to. That's what they wanted to do. That was their passion, and I loved it. But it wasn't. I guess it wasn't my passion. It was, just one of those things. But yeah, so baseball was more or less the only sport I played organizationally. I played obviously little league and high school. So I played that competitively and organizationally. I always loved to play basketball with my buddies. Never played organizationally, but always really enjoyed playing basketball. I never played football. So baseball is really the only one that I played organizationally. So, but I like to play football, basketball, whatever with my buddies. We would always be going out and playing. We would play full-on tackle football with a bunch of people and playing basketball with a bunch of people and having a good time. So always really enjoyed that. Then being from New Jersey, I got to experience in 1982 the New Jersey Devils came to the state from Colorado, and they were a new National Hockey League team, and I started getting into ice hockey. Never ice skated before, never have ice skated in my life, but I absolutely adore hockey. It's just a great sport. I follow it very closely. I follow the New Jersey Devils extremely closely. They're one of my passions. So baseball, hockey are my two favorites. I like to watch football. I'm not super into it, but I do enjoy watching football. But yeah, I consume quite a bit of sports. I watch a lot of sports radio. I watch the simulcast on TV for the sports radio stuff, and um, it's more or less always from the New York aspect. So I like to consume a lot of the New York sports media stuff because that's where I grew up. That's kind of where my allegiances lie. I'm not the type of person that was like, okay, now I don't live there anymore, so I'm going to start rooting for this team. I was born and raised to root for this team. I'm always going to root for that team, and that's just kind of the way it is. So I get pretty intense when it comes to some of the aspects of sports. So it's but I enjoy it. I definitely enjoy it.
So now we're gonna get canceled by everyone that is from Boston. Oh, don't listen to those guys. There's a junkie there.
It's the Yankees. Yes. I played my hand for the hockey. It's the New Jersey Devils. For baseball, it's the New York Yankees, and football, it's the New York Giants. So my household and the way I was always grown, I was born and raised. It's Yankees, Giants, and then Mets, Jets. Hockey is tough because the Rangers are one of the original 6 team. So a lot of people are Rangers fans and not Devils fans. And it also depends on where you lived in New Jersey. So we weren't into hockey as a family prior to the Devils moving to New Jersey. Otherwise, we probably would have been Rangers fans. South Jersey people, they're fans of the Philadelphia Flyers because South Jersey is very close to Philadelphia. So usually down there, they're the ones that root for the Flyers. They'll root for the Philadelphia Eagles and the Philadelphia Phillies from a baseball aspect. Up north, it's more New York, so you'll find they're rooting for the New York Rangers, obviously Yankees, Mets, Giants, Jets. When I grew up in Central Jersey, so but I was born and raised Yankees fan, born and raised Giants fan, and then obviously the Devils came to New Jersey, so that's when I started getting into hockey. So I was able to follow the Devils from their inception all the way till present time. That's my sports story.
I wouldn't be able to. Well, my sports story is more tragic. Get out the violence. I mean, being from Puerto Rico, and I guess everyone that either is Latino or knows anything about sports are very important. But from the family upbringing, is usually getting signed up for the major leagues to get your family out of being poor.
Now, you know what? you know what's funny is you laugh, but I can definitely see. From my standpoint, growing up playing baseball, everybody played baseball, right? But we all played baseball just because that was what we did. I can definitely understand, and there is a lot of great players that came from Puerto Rico. So,
I know.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite ball player of all time, Bernie Williams, from Puerto Rico. So, but that's an interesting aspect. So, when you were growing up, did you find that the people were taking the baseball more seriously? Then I guess you don't really have much to really compare it to. But
let me put it in let me put the scenario. It's kind of
okay.
I was a chubby little boy when I was growing up, so that out of itself, obviously, getting into a sport was hard, and I didn't have the, like you just said, the disposition or really the passion or the love for it. It was more so because I was thought that was the way, like the Mandalorian.
Right.
This is the way, and to be quite honest, I dabble. Obviously, I play basketball, I play volleyball, I play baseball for a little bit. I didn't have that sort of a cycle of contemporary friends that we will just meet up and be able to go to a park and play. I needed to go very far from where I live to be able to meet with anyone that I knew. And it's not that I didn't have any neighbors, it's that basically all the neighbors that I had were older. So when I tried to play or interact with them, it was always difficult because not only physically they were bigger, faster, stronger, I was not able to measure up, and also I was a round little boy running around and trying to play.
Yeah.
And when I was able to come to the age that I might be on equal or at least get a bit of an advantage or equal ground with them, they had other interests. So it was hard to kind of develop that environment that I was able to grow in and nurture the love for the sport, aside from my father and my uncle that used to watch baseball games all the time or basketball. So for me to tell you that I had like a favorite team growing up, I would say maybe the Texas Rangers, just for the sake of it.
No,
Like,
no, no, no. I have to ask. I mean, there's got to be some reason, or did you just literally pick them out of a hat?
well, at some point, I don't remember if I was in sixth grade, I believe. There was a point that the roster have two or three Puerto Ricans there.
Gotcha. Okay, that's
And
cool. That makes
and
sense.
that kind of was the only thing that I used as a, well, I might as well choose a thing because for me, you talk about choosing or having a favorite theme. I don't have the same of how you say structure or way to receive consuming that sport that I have to choose a theme. I tell you a theme because everyone is asking me and to kind of get that conversation out of the way. Yeah,
Yeah.
I say this theme and remember the name of a few players, and that's it. And to be quite honest, I don't even go out of my way to see a game unless I'm invited to see a game. Like I can watch a game as a group,
Sure.
but to do it on my own, I don't do it. Basketball is the same. If you ask me, what would be your favorite game? And just because of the hype, and when I was growing up, obviously Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and everyone that was in the Chicago Bulls. And if you ask me today, I'll say just Chicago for the sake of
Sure.
it.
Sure.
And do you even know anyone in the roster? I know who is in the roster right now. And don't even get me started with hockey. I think I saw my first live hockey game maybe a month or two ago
Oh, okay.
because a common friend that we have told me to go and see the game with them. And I'm like, sure, I'm down with it.
What was it a like a AHL game or?
No, it was the Swamp Rabbits, I believe, were playing here.
Okay.
The local team versus the team from Florida. I forgot
Okay.
their name, but it was entertaining to watch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But for me, it's that it's entertaining to see it with other people. It's not the sort of thing that I will do on my own. So
No, I get it. Yeah.
that's kind of my approach with sports, and I guess when we go into any conversation about sports, you will be the one teaching me about it. And hey,
Well,
I might comprehend a thing or two, because by exposure, but I'm not huge into it, I guess.
I enjoy. I obviously watch a lot of sports. I watch sports pretty much daily, and on my own. But I also enjoy watching it with people as well. But one of the things that I do really enjoy watching when I'm watching it with somebody, some is somebody that doesn't know a whole lot about it. I like it. I enjoy when they ask questions and being able to explain like this happened for this reason or this is that rule or whatnot. This is why that is because there's a lot of different aspects in all sports. Baseball specifically though that are very there a lot of the rules in baseball are so intricate. They're so strategic. There's a lot of strategy involved. There's a lot of things that you're quote unquote supposed to do and not supposed to do, and things like that. And I always enjoy that aspect of it. And that's one of the reasons I really enjoy watching it. And it's fun to me when I can help somebody else see like this is why they do that, and then they say, oh, okay, that makes sense, and then they
Hmm.
might enjoy it a little bit more because now they understand. Ah, okay, that makes more sense. So, I always enjoy not just sports, but I always enjoy having people be able to experience things that I enjoy that they've never experienced before. I get a lot of joy out of that.
Oh, that's good. I guess we'll be doing a whole lot of that. And to be quite transparent and honest with you, I think with had this conversation before in a sense. I understand most of the terminology about the baseball, for example, but because my father had kind of told me about it, or
Sure.
kind of obviously watching games with other people, and I see something, I ask and they tell me. And being Puerto Rico, it's impossible you going around the corner and someone not
Yeah.
talking to you about baseball. But maybe a hot take here. I know and comprehend that it can be very technical. That when the pitcher releases the ball, it's like a machine. A whole lot of gears are moving. Like the fielders are looking forward. If anyone is on a base, they're trying to run. If someone is kind of a fielding or in second base, they're kind of watching where the ball is gonna go.
Sure.
I know there's a whole lot of things going on at the same time. But I'm from the mindset that sitting down watching the sport, like maybe some other people think, is very slow.
Baseball is slow, yes.
I'm boring, and this is the hot take.
Yes.
That's why I cannot sit down and see a game, even though I know that a lot of things are happening at the same time. There's a lot of technique going on.
Yep.
I mean, a people that hit the ball 3 times out of 10 is a professional. In every other, I guess you could say, either profession or even sport, having that sort of rating or marks would be atrocious. But here, it's such a technical game about you be able to hit the ball correctly and someone not catching the ball, or you be able to get to first base. It's kind of a...
Yeah.
I comprehend it. But
it's such a different sport.
Yeah. And man,
Yeah.
and now I'm gonna get canceled by everyone that loves baseball.
Everybody
Like,
loves baseball. Yeah, you know how many other fans you just gained from people who also find baseball extremely boring to watch. But no, I mean, I think part of it is because I played, that I enjoy watching it. But I can, and don't get me wrong, there's definitely plenty of baseball games that are boring. But there's I understand a million % why people think or feel that baseball is boring to watch. And hey, sometimes it is, but there's definitely a lot of aspects that I enjoy. And like I said, maybe it's because I played, but also I find it to be one of the more unique sports as far as it's the rules and all the stuff. It's so I remember, one quick story before we wrap everything up is my first job, I worked at a bagel store, and I was a cleaner there, mopping the floors, cleaning and everything like that. And,
sorry that I cut you up. When someone tell me that they're a cleaner at a bagel shop, it's like, man, we close shop. You see all those bagels? You're gonna clean them up.
Oh, man. Let me tell you though. It sucked and it was awesome all at the same time. It was definitely a pretty cool experience. I was only like 16 at the time, but they ended up hiring another cleaner to help me out, and he was from Yugoslavia. He was an older gentleman and very, very nice guy. We got along great, and we worked well together. And I remember this specifically. I don't know why. There's certain things that I remember just real vividly or real specifically. And this was one of them for whatever reason. And he said, "Kevin, can you explain to me baseball?" He had no idea, so he wanted me to explain to him baseball, how the sport. And instantly I was like, "Sure, no problem. I can easily explain it to you." And then I started to explain to him baseball, and I think it was about 5 minutes into the conversation. I had to stop myself, and I'm like, I can't. This is impossible. There's no way in hell I can explain to you baseball. I can't. There's too much. It's too much.
But
I was like, there's no way.
It was to the degree that they haven't seen a game, or they.
Yeah. Well, I think I think he had tried to watch a game and didn't understand what was happening.
Okay.
So, if we were watching a game and then you could tell them this happened because of this, or they have to do this because that's the rules, yes. But to try to explain somebody baseball, you can pretty much explain to somebody the sport of, say, hockey or even soccer for the most part in general. You know, okay, you have, five each side, and they have a puck, and the whole aspect of it is to pass the puck to get into the offensive zone to be able to try to put the puck into this net. I mean, in like super duper basic terms, that's hockey, right? But baseball, it's, 3 strikes, 4 balls, base hit, fly out, ground out. Why do they have to touch this base first? And this base is off the base. It's so complicated. But because I grew up playing and understanding it, to me it's like second nature. But so when I was trying to explain to him, I was like, I can't do this anymore, man. I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Man, what was that movie that Adam Sandler made? I think for Netflix. And there's I forget the name. There's a guy that is trying to explain how to play baseball, and he's coming up with the rules as they go. And I remember the thing. Don't remember the name of the movie. I guess I'll look it up later. But I remember the thing that he was kind of coming up with the rules on the go, and the guy throws the ball, and the catcher gets the ball, and he misses, and you're out. No, I get 3 opportunities to hit the ball. I was like, dude, you're coming with this on the spot. It kind of sometimes feels like that.
It does. It's crazy. It's nuts.
Yeah, and when I hit the ball and it goes very far away, it does a home run, and I can go and run all the bases and get to the home. It's like, you just came with that on the spot. Yeah.
I mean, even when I was playing in high school, legitimately in high school, now probably freshman, junior year, there was players on the team that I would ask, what happens if the ball hits the foul pole? And they would say it's a foul ball, and that's not right. It's a home run. So, I mean, there's weird things in baseball. That's just the way it is. You would think, well, it hit the foul pole, it's foul. No, it's a home run. But that's just, to me, it was like, okay, I so even at that, they've been playing baseball for this period of time, and they still didn't know some of these weird rules.
Oh, before It's Me Alive, The Ridiculous Six was the movie.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that one. I know which one that you're talking about, though. I'm gonna have to give it a watch.
You can watch it. I mean, it's a Adam Sandler movie, I guess.
That's okay. I mean, I know what I'm getting when I'm going into it, so I won't be surprised.
It's kind of a bear.
Hey, you know what? You going into something like that with Adam Sandler, you figure if you get a couple good laughs out of it, then it's worth it.
The one that I want to watch is Uncut Gems. A lot of people told me that he really went full in for that job.
Yeah, I've heard that as well, and I have not seen that one, and it does look interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a review.
So, Kevin, what do you think for our first recording? And kind of
that was pretty good. Hey, you know what? I enjoyed the recording quite a bit. I'm hoping other people tune in and enjoy the recording and got to know us a little bit better, even though it's just our first go at it. But again, hopefully people tune in, listen to what we have to say, agree, disagree, whatever. We're gonna be checking out some movies, some video games, hopefully some sports and whatnot. And we're gonna just talk about them and see what happens.
We'll see what happens, and hopefully we'll be more ready than this.
No, yeah, you know what? That's I don't know. I sometimes to me it's like, if I watch a movie specifically, I usually like to go onto the message boards and read about what other people are saying about it. So that's kind of my attitude. And so I don't know if we necessarily need to be super structured, but yeah.
It's funny because I'm the complete opposite. I prefer to
But that's
know.
good.
I prefer to know as little to be able to give as much of a honest opinion on the matter, especially if I'm gonna do a review and record. Obviously,
Sure.
after I've seen a movie or consume a game or whatever, I kind of want to know obviously the opinion of what everyone else is saying about it.
Yeah, yeah.
But sometimes it's inevitable. Being in social media or whatever you are, you're gonna get some feedback about, oh, this thing is terrible. Oh, this thing is great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Well, hopefully people were interested enough to tune into our next episode, and we'll be talking about who knows, anything.
Who knows? Well,
You won't be ready for this. I won't be ready for this.
thank you for tuning in. Hope to have you back. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.